I'm Sarah, and I'm 32 years old. My mother just announced at my white coat ceremony that my signing bonus from the hospital belongs to my younger brother for his tech startup. The words felt like ice water down my spine. Standing there in my brand new resident physician jacket with my attending physicians watching in complete disbelief. Let me rewind a bit. 4 hours earlier, I was on top of the world. I just matched into my dream residency program at Mount Sinai in Manhattan after the hardest decade of my life. My program director, Dr. Martinez, had pulled me aside during the reception and told me something I'd been waiting years to hear. Sarah, we're offering you a $15,000 signing bonus. Your research on pediatric trauma care was exceptional. We want you to feel valued here. For someone who'd been living on ramen and hope for the past 10 years, who'd put herself through medical school while working night shifts as an EMT, that bonus felt like a lifeline. It was my chance to finally pay off some of the $280,000 in student loan debt that had been crushing me since I was 22. If you're watching from somewhere that healthcare workers are actually appreciated, drop your location in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you've ever been the family bank while everyone else lived their best life. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. But before I get to the explosion that happened at my ceremony, you need to understand how I ended up carrying my entire family on my back for over a decade. When I was 19, halfway through my sophomore year at Boston University, my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. By Friday, our entire world had imploded. Dad worked in commercial real estate, which sounds impressive, until you realize he was basically a glorified salesman who hadn't closed a deal in 8 months. No deals meant no commission. No commission meant no health insurance that covered experimental treatments. Mom needed aggressive chemotherapy that our insurance classified as not medically necessary. The words still make me sick. Watching your mother waste away is apparently not necessary enough for coverage. The out-of-pocket cost: $8,000 per month for 6 months, plus surgery, plus radiation after that. We were looking at close to $100,000 in medical debt before we even started talking about lost income from Mom being too sick to work. Someone had to step up. That someone, as usual, was me. I withdrew from BU mid-semester, said goodbye to my pre-med track and my scholarship, and came home to figure out how to save my mother's life. My younger brother, Alex, was 16 at the time, still in high school, still living in blissful ignorance about how money and responsibility actually worked. While I was researching which organs I could legally sell to pay for Mom's treatment, Alex was worried about whether he'd make varsity lacrosse. I got my EMT certification in 3 months and started working overnight shifts at the local hospital. The pay was terrible, around $16 an hour, but I could stack shifts and pull in enough to cover Mom's treatment costs if I basically never slept. During the day, I took online courses at community college, slowly chipping away at my degree requirements. At night, I drove an ambulance and watched people's worst moments unfold in the back of my rig. The promotion to paramedic came after my first year, bumping me up to $22 an hour. Finally, I thought, we might actually survive this. That's when my parents sat me down for the conversation that would define the next 8 years of my life. "Sarah, you're doing so well," Mom said, her hair just starting to grow back from the chemo. "Since you've got this steady income now, your father and I think you should take over the household expenses. Just temporarily, until Dad's business picks up. Just temporarily." The lie we all told ourselves. Just like that, I became responsible for the mortgage on our 4-bedroom colonial in the suburbs, the utilities, the groceries, the car payments for both parents, and Alex's every need. Because heaven forbid the golden child should want for anything, while his sister was bleeding herself dry to keep the family afloat. Here's what just temporarily actually looked like. For the next 8 years, I paid an average of $3,800 per month in household expenses. Do the math. That's $45,600 per year. Over 8 years, I contributed $364,800 to keeping my family's lifestyle intact. Not that anyone was counting, except me. Every single month when I transferred money from my account to theirs, watching my dreams of medical school get further and further away. The worst part wasn't the money, though that was brutal enough. It was watching Alex coast through life without ever once having to make a hard choice. While I was working 60-hour weeks and studying for the MCAT in whatever spare moments I could scrape together, Alex was living his best college experience. State school, full ride that I helped him study for, and a lifestyle funded entirely by my sacrifice. Spring break in Miami? On my dime. New laptop for his computer science major? My credit card. Internship in San Francisco that was such an amazing opportunity but didn't pay? I covered his rent for the summer. When I asked, just once, if maybe Alex could get a part-time job to help out, my mother looked at me like I'd suggested he donate a kidney. Sarah, Alex needs to focus on his studies. His GPA is crucial for his future. You of all people should understand the importance of education. The irony of her saying that to the daughter who'd given up her scholarship and her first shot at college was apparently lost on her. But I kept telling myself it was temporary. Once Mom was in remission and Alex graduated, I could go back to my life. I could finally pursue medicine the way I'd always dreamed. I just had to hold on a little longer. That breaking point came when I was 27. I'd been working as a paramedic for 6 years, taking community college classes whenever I could afford them, and watching my dreams gather dust. Alex had just graduated with his computer science degree and landed a decent job at a tech company in Austin, making $75,000 a year right out of school. Good money. Money that could help support Mom and Dad. Money that could finally give me a chance to focus on my own future. I'll never forget the family dinner where I brought it up. Alex is established now, I said carefully, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. Maybe it's time we talked about redistributing the household expenses. I'd really like to cut back my hours and focus on getting into medical school. The silence around the table was deafening. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. Sarah, you're so good at managing everything. Alex is just starting out in his career. He needs time to get established, build up savings. You understand, don't you? I've been established for 6 years, I said quietly. When do I get time to build my life? Alex didn't even look up from his phone. I mean, you chose to become a paramedic, Sarah. That's on you. I'm pursuing actual career growth. It's different. Actual career growth. As if saving lives in the back of an ambulance was just a cute hobby I'd picked up. As if I hadn't sacrificed my own career dreams to keep him in the lifestyle he'd come to expect. That's when I met Daniel at a medical conference I'd scraped together the money to attend. I was there representing our EMS department, presenting research I'd done on trauma response times in rural areas. He was a second-year internal medicine resident at a teaching hospital in Boston, and he approached me after my presentation with genuine interest in my work. This data could change protocol nationwide, he said, studying my charts. Have you thought about publishing this? Most doctors at these conferences treated paramedics like we were there to fetch them coffee. Daniel asked about my methodology, my conclusions, my future research plans. We ended up talking through lunch, then dinner, then breakfast the next day when we both realized we'd stayed up all night discussing everything from emergency medicine to our favorite books. On our third date, over terrible diner coffee at 2 a.m. after we'd both gotten off late shifts, I finally told him about my situation. About dropping out of school, about supporting my family, about the medical school dreams I'd put on hold for so long I was starting to forget what they felt like. Daniel didn't immediately jump to advice or judgment. Instead, he asked the question that would change everything. What do you actually want, Sarah? Not what your family wants. Not what you think you should want. What do you want for your own life? The question hit me like a physical blow. Nobody had asked me that in 8 years. Not once. My wants had become so buried under everyone else's needs that I'd almost forgotten they existed. I want to go to medical school, I said, and my voice cracked. I want to be a doctor. I want to do pediatric emergency medicine and make a real difference. I want to wake up and not immediately calculate how many shifts I need to pick up this month. I want to buy groceries without budgeting down to the penny. I want to live somewhere that doesn't have 3 roommates. I want something that's mine. Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. Those aren't unreasonable things to want, Sarah. Those are basic human needs. The people who love you should want those things for you too. But that was the problem. My family had gotten so comfortable with me sacrificing everything that they'd stopped seeing me as a person with my own dreams. I was just the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who would always say yes no matter what they asked. Meeting Daniel's family was like stepping into an alternate dimension. His parents, both professors at MIT, asked about my research, my career goals, my interests beyond just what I could provide for others. His sister, a lawyer in Chicago, wanted to know my opinion on healthcare policy. Nobody assumed I existed solely to serve their needs. When I mentioned I was thinking about finally applying to medical school, Daniel's mom got visibly excited. Sarah, that's wonderful. What's holding you back? The truth spilled out before I could stop it. The financial burden of supporting my family, the debt I'd accumulated, the fact that at 28 I'd be one of the oldest students in my class if I even got in. The average medical student is actually 24, Daniel's dad said gently. You'd be well within the normal range. And frankly, your life experience would make you a better physician. You've seen more real medicine in the field than most med students see in their first 2 years. His mother added, as for the financial burden, have you considered that your family might need to start taking care of themselves? You've given them 8 years. That's more than generous. The concept was foreign to me. My family needing to figure things out on their own? Actually standing on their own feet? It seemed impossible, even cruel. But Daniel's family planted a seed that would eventually grow into my escape plan. I started studying for the MCAT, using whatever spare hours I could scrape together between shifts. Daniel would quiz me, make flashcards, celebrate every practice test score improvement. When I finally took the exam and scored in the 90th percentile, I cried in my car for 20 minutes. After everything, I still had it. I could still do this. The medical school applications went out that fall. I applied to 15 schools, pouring my heart into every personal statement, explaining my unconventional path and what it had taught me about medicine and humanity. Daniel helped me practice for interviews, playing the role of skeptical admissions committee member. When the acceptance letter from Boston University School of Medicine arrived, the same school I'd left 9 years earlier, it felt like the universe was giving me a second chance. Full acceptance. Scholarship covering 40% of tuition. A path back to my dreams. I called my family to share the news, expecting celebration, maybe even acknowledgement of how hard I'd worked to get here. Instead, my mother's first words were, "That's wonderful, dear. But you'll still be able to help with the bills, right?" Medical students can work part-time. That's when I knew nothing would change unless I forced it to change. The conversation I'd been avoiding for 9 years happened on a Sunday afternoon in my parents' living room. I'd come prepared with bank statements, spreadsheets, calculations of exactly how much I'd contributed over the years. Daniel offered to come for moral support, but I needed to do this alone. "I'm going to medical school in the fall," I started, my voice steadier than I felt. "Which means I won't be able to contribute to household expenses anymore. You have 6 months to make other arrangements." The reaction was immediate and predictable. My mother's face went pale. My father started sputtering about responsibility and family obligations. Alex, who'd been scrolling through his phone, finally looked up. "What are we supposed to do?" Mom demanded. "Your father's business still isn't stable. We depend on you." "Alex makes $75,000 a year," I said calmly. "He can contribute. Dad, you can get a regular job with benefits instead of waiting for your big commission that never comes. This isn't sustainable, and it's not fair to expect me to put my entire life on hold indefinitely." "We never asked you to put your life on hold," Dad said, which was such a blatant lie that I actually laughed. "You've asked me to cover $3,800 a month in your expenses for 9 years. You asked me to pay for Alex's college living expenses while he partied his way through state school. You asked me to sacrifice my education, my social life, and my 20s so everyone else could live comfortably. Now I'm asking for one thing, to live my own life." Alex finally spoke up. "This is incredibly selfish, Sarah. Family is supposed to support each other." "You're right," I said. "Family should support each other. When does it become my turn to be supported?" The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. They'd never considered that question because they'd never had to. I'd always been there, always said yes, always put them first. The idea that I might choose myself was genuinely inconceivable to them. I left that day with my boundaries set. Starting in 6 months, my financial support would end. They had time to adjust, to plan, to actually figure out how to function as independent adults. Whether they used that time wisely wasn't my responsibility anymore. Medical school was harder than anything I'd ever done, but it was mine. Every anatomy lab, every sleepless night studying pharmacology, every patient interaction on my clinical rotations, it all belonged to me. For the first time in my adult life, I was building something for myself, instead of maintaining everyone else's comfort. Daniel and I got engaged during my 2nd year of medical school. His proposal was perfect, simple but meaningful, during a quiet moment after we'd both survived particularly brutal shifts. He understood the life I was choosing, the demands of medicine, the sacrifice it required. But this time, the sacrifice was my choice, for my own dreams, not forced on me by family obligation. My family's reaction to the engagement was lukewarm at best. No excitement about my happiness, just immediate questions about the wedding budget and whether we'd be having it somewhere nice enough. When Daniel's parents offered to pay for the wedding as their gift to us, my mother's response was, "Well, I suppose that's convenient for you, Sarah, given that you abandoned your responsibility to help us." Abandoned. The word she chose for me, finally choosing to live my own life after giving them 9 years and $364,800. The residency match process was terrifying and exhilarating. I ranked Mount Sinai first, drawn by their pediatric emergency medicine program and their commitment to trauma research. When I matched there, Daniel matched at a hospital 20 minutes away in Brooklyn. Everything was falling into place. That's when Mount Sinai offered me the signing bonus. $15,000 to commit to their program and recognize the strength of my application. It wasn't life-changing money, but it would make a dent in my loan debt. Maybe even let me buy actual furniture instead of the hodgepodge collection I'd accumulated from curb fines and Craigslist. I should have known better than to mention it to my family. But in a moment of weakness, of hoping maybe they'd finally be proud of me, I told my mother about the bonus during a phone call. "That's wonderful, honey," she said, her voice taking on that tone I'd learned to recognize. The tone that meant she was about to ask for something. "Actually, the timing is perfect. Alex has a business opportunity." My stomach dropped. "Mom, no. Just hear me out. He's been developing this app with some friends from work. It's going to revolutionize social media marketing, but they need capital to get it off the ground. $15,000 would be the perfect seed money. That money is for my student loans. Sarah, this is an investment in Alex's future. In the family's future. When his company takes off, we'll all benefit. You're going to be a doctor. You'll make plenty of money. Alex needs this chance." The audacity of it took my breath away. After everything I'd given, everything I'd sacrificed, she wanted me to hand over the first financial win I'd had in years to my brother who'd never contributed a single dollar to anyone but himself. The answer is no, Mom. Don't be selfish, Sarah. Family invests in each other. I've been investing in this family for 9 years. It's someone else's turn. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking with adrenaline. Daniel found me on our apartment floor, crying angry tears. He didn't say "I told you so." He just held me and reminded me that I had the right to keep what was mine. The white coat ceremony was scheduled for a Friday evening at Mount Sinai. It's this beautiful tradition where new residents receive their first physician's coat, a symbolic passage from medical student to doctor. I'd invited my family, hoping naively that they might show up to support me for once. They came. But as I would learn, they didn't come to celebrate. The ceremony itself was incredible. Dr. Martinez, our program director, spoke about the responsibility we were taking on, the lives we'd save, the difference we'd make. When they called my name and placed that white coat over my shoulders, I felt like I was finally becoming who I was always meant to be. Daniel was in the audience, beaming. His parents were there too, having driven up from Boston. They'd become more family to me than my own blood relatives. During the reception afterward, that's when it happened. I was standing with Dr. Martinez and some of my new co-residents, introducing Daniel's parents, when my mother appeared at my elbow. "Sarah, darling, we need to talk about the bonus." Her voice was bright, artificially cheerful, the voice she used when she wanted something in public. "Not now, Mom," I said quietly, acutely aware of my program director standing 3 feet away. "It'll just take a moment." She turned to Dr. Martinez with her most charming smile. "Dr. Martinez, I'm Sarah's mother. I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity, and we're so excited about that generous signing bonus. It's going to make such a difference for our family." The way she said "our family," as if she had any claim to money I'd earned through my own merit, made my blood boil. But it got worse. "Actually," Mom continued, her voice getting louder, drawing the attention of everyone nearby, "we've decided that the bonus should go towards Sarah's brother's startup. Alex has such promise. And as a family, we support each other's dreams." The room seemed to freeze. I saw Dr. Martinez's expression shift from polite confusion to understanding to something like horror. Daniel's parents looked stunned. My co-residents were suddenly very interested in their champagne glasses. "We've decided?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Well, yes. It's what's best for the family. Alex's app could really take off, and you're going to be making good money soon anyway. It only makes sense to invest in his future." Every eye in the room was on us now. My program director, the attending physicians who would be teaching me for the next 3 years, my fellow residents, everyone was witnessing my mother trying to claim my accomplishment, my reward, for my brother who'd never sacrificed anything for anyone. That's when my father stepped forward. "Sarah's always been the practical one," he said to Dr. Martinez, as if explaining a quirk of mine. "She understands family comes first. The bonus can do so much more good helping Alex than sitting in Sarah's bank account." Something inside me shattered. Or maybe it was finally coming together. Either way, I felt a clarity I'd never experienced before. "No," I said. The word came out stronger than I expected, echoing slightly in the sudden silence. "Sarah, don't make a scene," Mom hissed. "You're making the scene, Mom. You showed up at my white coat ceremony, at the most important professional moment of my life, to demand money that isn't yours, in front of my program director, in front of my colleagues, in front of the people I'll be working with for the next 3 years." I turned to Dr. Martinez, who was watching this unfold with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I apologize for this disruption. That signing bonus is going toward my student loan debt, exactly as I planned." Then I looked back at my parents and Alex, who'd appeared from wherever he'd been lurking. "I've given you 9 years and $364,800. I put my education on hold, worked myself to exhaustion, and funded every aspect of your lives while you gave me nothing but demands for more. It ends now. The signing bonus is mine. My salary will be mine. My future is mine. If you can't be happy for me without trying to take from me, then you're not welcome in my life." My mother's face went red. "After everything we've done for you, we raised you. We gave you a home. You raised me to believe my only value was what I could provide for others. You taught me that my dreams mattered less than everyone else's comfort." Well, I'm done learning that lesson. Daniel appeared at my side, his hand finding mine. "I think it's time for you all to leave," he said calmly to my family. "You," my father jabbed a finger at Daniel, "you're turning her against us." "No," Daniel said simply. "You did that all by yourselves. I'm just supporting her right to make her own choices." Security was called. My family was escorted out while my mother shouted about ungrateful daughters and selfish children. It should have been humiliating. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in years. Dr. Martinez approached me after the chaos settled. "Dr. Chen," he said, "using my new title, I need you to know that what just happened doesn't reflect on your standing in this program. If anything, I'm impressed by how you handled that situation." "Thank you," I managed. "Also, between you and me, anyone who could support a family financially while getting through medical school with your grades is exactly the kind of determined physician we want here. Use that bonus however you need to. You earned it." The next few months were silent ones. My family didn't call, didn't text, didn't acknowledge my existence. It should have hurt. And it did, a little. But mostly, it felt like finally being able to breathe. I started my residency in July, throwing myself into the work with everything I had. 80-hour weeks, overnight calls, the brutal exhaustion of being a first-year resident, it was all mine. My struggle, my achievement, my path forward. Daniel and I got married in a small ceremony that December. Just us, his family, a few close friends, and Jennifer, a fellow resident who'd become my closest friend at the hospital. No drama, no demands, no strings attached. Just people who genuinely wanted to celebrate our happiness. The first crack in my family's silence came 8 months after my white coat ceremony. Alex's startup had failed, spectacularly. They'd burned through their initial capital in 3 months, couldn't secure additional funding, and the whole thing collapsed. Alex moved back home, unemployed, his grand dreams of being a tech entrepreneur in ashes. My mother called on a Tuesday evening while I was between shifts. "Sarah, we need to talk." "About what, Mom?" "Alex is going through a difficult time. His business didn't work out." "I'm sorry to hear that." A pause. "He's looking for work, but it's hard out there. We thought maybe you could help him out financially, just until he gets back on his feet." The laugh that came out of me was harsh, humorless. "You're calling to ask for money after 8 months of silence?" "He's your brother. He's a grown man who's never had to face consequences because someone always bailed him out. Usually me. Not anymore." "Sarah, please. We're struggling." "Then I suggest Alex get a job. Any job. The way I had to when I was 19. Dad can find work too. Figure it out yourselves." "How can you be so cold?" "I'm not cold, Mom. I'm just done being your solution to every problem you refuse to solve yourselves." I hung up. Daniel, who'd overheard the whole thing, just squeezed my shoulder. "I'm proud of you," he said. The real apology came almost 2 years after my white coat ceremony. I was working a shift in the pediatric ER when my phone buzzed with a text from my dad asking if we could meet for coffee. I almost said no. But something in his message felt different. Less demanding, more genuine. So I agreed. We met at a diner halfway between the hospital and my old hometown. Dad looked older than I remembered, more tired. He ordered coffee and sat in silence for a long moment before speaking. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. A real one, not one of those non-apology apologies where I make excuses. I'm sorry, Sarah. For all of it, I waited. After years of false promises and manipulation, I needed more than just words. Your mother and I, we got comfortable with you carrying us. It was easy to let you handle everything because you were so good at it. We told ourselves we'd pay you back someday, that it was temporary, but the truth is we never planned to change. We just kept taking because you kept giving. He looked me in the eye. What happened at your ceremony, the way your mother ambushed you about that bonus, that was inexcusable. We had no right to your money. We had no right to expect you to keep sacrificing yourself. And I'm ashamed it took losing you for 2 years to realize that. What about Mom? I asked. And Alex? Your mother is struggling with it. She still thinks she was right to expect family to help family. But she's starting to understand that what we did wasn't help. It was exploitation. As for Alex, he's working as a sales associate at Best Buy. It's humbling him, which he desperately needed. And you? I got a job. Regular hours, steady paycheck, health insurance. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I should have done it 10 years ago instead of putting that burden on you. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked maybe for the first time since I was a teenager. He wanted to know about my residency, my research, my life with Daniel. Not because he wanted something from me, but because he genuinely cared. I don't expect you to forgive us, he said as we were leaving. We don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I see now what we did to you. And I'm sorry. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. I didn't immediately welcome them back into my life. But it was a start. A real one. Today, 3 years after that disastrous white coat ceremony, my relationship with my family is different. Smaller, more careful, built on actual mutual respect instead of obligation and guilt. I talk to my dad once every few weeks. He tells me about his job, asks about my cases without expecting me to fix anything for him. Mom calls less often, and our conversations are still sometimes awkward, but she's learning to see me as a person instead of a resource. Alex and I are cordial but distant. He never apologized. Not really, but he did eventually thank me for everything I'd done. It's not enough, but it's something. That $15,000 signing bonus paid down a chunk of my student loans exactly as I'd planned. I'm a third-year resident now, specializing in pediatric emergency medicine. I save kids' lives. I do meaningful work. I have a husband who values me for who I am, not what I can provide. The white coat that started all this drama hangs in my locker at the hospital. Sometimes I look at it and remember that moment when I finally chose myself, when I said no to people who'd never learned to hear that word from me. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever been the family ATM or struggled to set boundaries with people who should love you unconditionally, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself and building the life you deserve. Because here's what I learned. The people who truly love you will celebrate your success, not try to profit from it. They'll support your dreams, not demand you sacrifice them. And if your family can't do that, then sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and build your own family from people who actually see your worth. Remember, you can't control whether people respect your boundaries, but you can always control what treatment you're willing to accept. Choose yourself. You deserve it.